Tomorrow, before the day even begins, before the sun rises, the alarm rings and the house is still silent. For a few moments you may feel that the whole world is waiting for your decision about how you will live the next hours. It is in this moment, between the weight of the tasks that await you and the quiet hope that everything will go well, that a prayer can transform the way you enter the day. Praying at dawn is not just repeating memorized words, but placing your heart before God, recognizing your own fragility and choosing to trust. It is recognizing that no matter how much you plan, organize, and make an effort, there is a greater mystery that sustains your life, guards your steps, and can lead you along paths of peace, even when the external scene seems turbulent. Before we continue, if this content is touching your heart, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and leave your comment about this prayer. By starting the day with faith, you make a silent yet deeply powerful gesture. You surrender the control you think you have and place yourself in God's hands. This surrender does not mean passivity, but trust. It means getting out of bed not only because the clock ordered it, but because your heart chose to live that day as a gift and an opportunity. When you begin the morning in prayer, you consciously decide not to let anxiety dictate the rhythm of your first emotions. Instead, you invite God's presence into your thoughts, feelings, and decisions, allowing trust to take the place of fear and hope to take the place of discouragement. A prayer to start the day with faith can be simple. It does not need elaborate words or long speeches. What is essential is sincerity. Imagine for a moment that you place yourself before God as soon as you wake up, perhaps still sitting on the bed, with your mind a bit scattered and your body still sleepy. You breathe deeply and recognize that you are alive, that you have received another day you could not buy, earn, or demand. This day is a gift. And before this gift, the most fitting response is gratitude. Studies in the field of positive psychology have shown that people who cultivate gratitude daily tend to experience greater emotional well-being, more resilience in the face of difficulties, and healthier relationships. When you make the first word of the day thank you, you place your mind in a state of greater openness to divine goodness and care. Starting the day with faith, however, does not eliminate problems. The bills still need to be paid. Work still demands responsibility, family still needs attention, and the news of the world is not always encouraging. Prayer does not remove the challenges, but it changes the way you face them. In the very same situation, two people can react in completely different ways. One despairs, the other turns inward and trusts. The difference often lies in the inner decision to place oneself in God's hands. Faith is not a guarantee that everything will turn out exactly as you wish, but it is the certainty that God will remain at your side, even if the path takes unexpected turns. By lifting your heart to God at the beginning of the day, you acknowledge that you do not know all the details of what awaits you. There may be hidden joys, meaningful encounters, opportunities for learning. There may also be pain, setbacks, delays, and unforeseen events that test your patience and perseverance. Praying in the morning is like turning on a light inside your soul before opening the front door. You do not ask that the path be always easy, but that your steps be firm, your attitudes just, and your words constructive. You ask God to help you not to be someone who merely survives the day, but someone who lives it with meaning, purpose, and love. A possible prayer to start the day with faith could be like this: Lord, on this new day that begins, I place before you my life, my thoughts, feelings, and intentions. You know what awaits me, you know my strengths and my weaknesses. I ask you to enlighten my mind, strengthen my heart, and guide my steps. May I know how to receive with gratitude the joys that arise and face with courage the difficulties that appear. May I be an instrument of your peace, your truth, and your love wherever I go today. I entrust to you my family, my work, my worries, and my dreams. Lead me, Lord, and make me on this day a sign of your presence in the world. This prayer can be adapted with your own words according to the reality you live, but the essential thing is that it is born from a trusting heart. Throughout history, men and women of faith have learned to begin their days with prayer. In different spiritual traditions, dawn is seen as a sacred time, a moment when heaven seems to draw a little closer to the earth. There are those who get up before sunrise to have a few minutes of silence and recollection, far from noise and distractions. There are those who find in the simple gesture of opening the window, looking at the sky in silence and raising a prayer, the strength needed to carry on. What these experiences have in common is the certainty that the first voice to be heard, if possible, should not be the news, social media, or worries, but the voice of God, gentle and firm, inviting trust. It is understandable that, amid the rush and demands of modern life, many people find it hard to set aside time to pray. The clock always seems tight, responsibilities pile up, and prayer risks being seen as something for later. However, by placing prayer at the beginning of the day, you are actually reorganizing your priorities. Instead of praying only when there is leftover time, you show, through a concrete gesture, that God comes first. This is not only an abstract religious ideal, it is a practical decision that affects how you face everything that comes next. By dedicating a few minutes to prayer before throwing yourself into tasks, you lay the foundation on which the rest of your day will be built. There is another important aspect of morning prayer. It reminds us that we are not alone. In a world where so many people feel isolated, misunderstood, or overwhelmed, it is comforting to know that there is someone who knows us completely, who sees what others do not see and hears what no one else hears. Praying at dawn also means opening yourself to this invisible yet real companionship. When you say, "Lord, enter this day with me," you are inviting God to walk by your side in every conversation, every decision, every silence. And over the hours, you can remember that initial surrender, returning to prayer in brief acts of trust, even in the midst of the simplest tasks. Morning prayer can be enriched by small, concrete gestures. Some people like to have a prayer corner at home, however simple: a Bible, a candle, a sacred image, a symbol that recalls God's presence. Others prefer to pray while walking to work or while preparing coffee. The place and form may vary. What matters is the inner attitude of openness and trust. It is possible, for example, to begin with a moment of silence. Make the sign of the cross if that is part of your tradition. Read a short passage from Scripture or a spiritual text that inspires you, and then speak to God in a simple and direct way, as one speaks with a faithful and trustworthy friend. By starting the day with faith, you also place yourself in the disposition to see events with different eyes. Situations that could be seen only as obstacles begin to be seen as opportunities for growth. A setback in traffic can become an occasion to exercise patience. A difficulty at work can motivate creativity and effort in seeking new solutions. A disagreement in the family can invite sincere dialogue and forgiveness. None of this is automatic, of course. But when the heart has been warmed by prayer at dawn, it becomes more sensitive to the call of conscience and more willing to respond with maturity and serenity. Another important fruit of a prayer to start the day with faith is the capacity to welcome your own fragility. Many mornings are marked by thoughts of extreme self-demand. I must handle everything, I cannot fail, I have to be perfect. These heavy ideas can generate anxiety, insecurity, and even paralyze action. Instead, if you immediately acknowledge before God, "Lord, I am limited, I do not have all the answers, I can make mistakes, but I trust that you will be with me," you create space for greater inner freedom. You still give your best, but you stop carrying the burden of having to control everything. Faith invites you to walk in humility, accepting that the day may not be perfect, but it can be true, fruitful, and full of opportunities to love. It is interesting to note that many spiritual traditions suggest not only a morning prayer, but a continuous attitude of remembrance of God throughout the day. In this sense, the morning prayer works as the first step in a dialogue that stretches over the following hours. You can say, for example, when beginning an important task, "Lord, let me carry this out with wisdom and righteousness." When facing a difficulty, you can repeat in your heart, "I trust in you, do not abandon me." When receiving good news, you can say, "Thank you, Lord, for this grace." Thus, that initial prayer unfolds into many small acts of faith that permeate daily life and give a new color to your experiences. Here we end the first part of this meditation, focused on understanding the meaning and importance of a prayer to start the day with faith, as well as some of its fruits in our inner life and in our outward attitudes. Next, we will deepen in a more concrete way how this prayer can be lived in specific everyday situations, and how it can become a constant path of spiritual and human growth. As we continue, it is important to consider that a prayer to start the day with faith is not an exercise isolated from the rest of life. It is deeply linked to the relationships you build, the choices you make, and the values that guide your journey. When you wake up and place yourself before God, you do not pray only for yourself, but you carry with you the people you live with, the circumstances you face, and the responsibilities you bear. Authentic faith never closes itself in a narrow, individualistic circle. It expands and overflows into the way you look at others, perform your work, and react to injustices and the needs of the world. Think, for example, of the family context. How many homes begin the day in an atmosphere of rush, tension, and misalignment? Hurried parents, sleepy children, short and sometimes harsh dialogues. In such environments, a simple shared prayer, even if brief, can take on very deep symbolic and practical value. Gathering the family for 1 or 2 minutes, before each one goes their own way, to say, "Lord, bless our day, protect us, give us patience, unity, and respect," can change the atmosphere of the house. Even when this common prayer is not possible, the fact that family members pray for one another, mentioning them by name before God, is already an act of love that silently strengthens bonds. In the workplace, morning prayer also finds room to bear fruit. By asking God early on to help you be fair, honest, and dedicated in your tasks, you prepare yourself inwardly to face possible temptations to discouragement, laziness, or even dishonesty. Remembering at the beginning of the day that each activity, however simple it may seem, can be offered as service to God and to others, gives new meaning to your professional routine. Instead of seeing work only as an obligation or means of subsistence, you can also see it as an opportunity to place your gifts at the service of something greater. This change of perspective does not ignore real difficulties, but places them within a broader horizon. There are also situations of pain and uncertainty that so many people face when they get up in the morning. Those dealing with illness, the loss of a loved one, prolonged unemployment, or emotional crises know how hard it can be to face a new day. In such circumstances, prayer may seem, at first glance, a fragile thing in the face of such concrete suffering. Yet it is precisely in these moments that faith can reveal itself as an inner anchor. By saying to God at daybreak, "Lord, I do not understand everything I am living, but I do not want to go through this day alone," the person does not deny their pain, but chooses not to live it in isolation. He or she rests on the promise that God is close to those who suffer, hears their cries, and, even in mysterious ways, sustains and consoles them. From a human point of view, it is also possible to identify psychological and emotional benefits tied to this habit. Various studies in psychology and neuroscience point out that regular spiritual practices such as prayer, meditation, and contemplation can contribute to reducing stress, increasing the sense of well-being, and strengthening resilience. By starting the day with a few minutes of recollection and dialogue with God, you create inner space of calm and trust that helps you face external demands with greater balance. This does not mean, of course, that faith is a magic solution for all problems. It does mean that the spiritual life also integrates and strengthens the psychological and emotional dimensions of the person. It is important to highlight that this morning prayer does not have to be always the same. On the contrary, the relationship with God is alive and, like every true relationship, includes variations, moments of greater or lesser ease, periods of consolation and of apparent dryness. There will be days when words flow naturally and the heart feels warmed. There will be others when prayer seems dry, difficult, almost mechanical. Even so, persevering in this daily encounter is valuable. Sometimes faithfulness in prayer is shown precisely when a person decides to pray even without feeling great emotions, out of pure trust and love. Persevering in this way makes prayer gradually become not only a habit, but an inner need, a kind of breathing of the soul. To help with this perseverance, many people find support in traditional prayers that have nourished countless generations. Praying, for example, the Our Father upon waking, calmly and attentively, can be a deep way of placing yourself in God's hands. By saying, "Thy will be done," you surrender the day that begins to God's designs, asking for the grace to welcome that will even when it challenges your personal plans. By asking for our daily bread, you acknowledge your dependence and present to God not only material food, but all your concrete needs and those of the people you love. Traditional prayer thus combines with personal prayer, forming a rich and diverse fabric of dialogue with the Lord. Another concrete way to enrich morning prayer is to unite yourself, even spiritually, with others who pray. Knowing that, in different parts of the world, people get up and at dawn, lift their hearts to God can strengthen your own faith. You are not alone inside your house. You are part of a people, a community of believers who, with their fragilities and hopes, turn to the same God. This awareness of communion broadens the horizon of prayer. While asking for strength for your day, you can also intercede for those who suffer from war, hunger, injustice, and loneliness. Your prayer, however simple, enters a great current of trust and supplication. A prayer to start the day with faith also trains your eyes to recognize God's signs in reality. Over time, a person who prays consistently at dawn may notice that certain events, encounters, and words that seem casual take on a different flavor. A conversation that brings comfort, a solution that appears unexpectedly, a door that opens after a long wait. All this can be read in faith as an expression of divine providence. Of course, this reading does not dispense with discernment. Not everything that happens should be hastily interpreted as a direct sign. But an open heart allows you to recognize, with humility, that God acts in history and can indeed surprise you with gestures of care and mercy. At the same time, morning prayer helps you pass through experiences in which God seems silent. There are days when, despite prayer, things do not seem to move forward. Difficulties pile up and the soul feels weighed down. In such moments, remembering the surrender you made at dawn can be an important support. You can repeat inwardly, "I began this day trusting in you, Lord, and I choose to keep trusting, even without yet seeing the fruits." This decision to remain firm in faith, even in the midst of darkness, is an act of great spiritual maturity. It brings you closer to the experience of so many holy men and women who, in different eras, persevered in trust even while facing intense trials. When lived with sincerity, morning prayer also has effects on everyday ethics. By asking God, right when you wake up, to help you act with justice and love, you are, in a way, committing yourself not to betray the request in the following hours. If, at the beginning of the day, you plead, "Lord, give me a compassionate heart, help me not to be indifferent to others' pain," it becomes inconsistent later to close yourself off completely in the face of others' needs. Authentic faith seeks coherence between what is prayed and what is lived. Obviously, no one is perfect, and we are all on the way. But daily prayer can be a mirror that gently invites you to adjust your attitudes, review your stances, ask forgiveness when necessary, and begin again. It is also possible that, over time, you may wish to write down some of these morning prayers or the fruits you perceive from them. Keeping a small notebook in which you briefly note what you presented to God at dawn, and perhaps at the end of the day, how you felt or what you experienced, can be a very rich exercise. This record does not need to be elaborate. A few sincere lines are enough. When you reread them after some time, you may perceive a guiding thread, a path of growth, graces received, challenges overcome, and falls from which you rose again. In this way, prayer ceases to be just an isolated moment and becomes part of an ongoing process of growth. At the center of all this remains the conviction that God is faithful. You may fail, forget to pray on some days, feel distant on others. You may go through phases of doubt, weariness, or questioning. Even so, God remains. A prayer to start the day with faith is not a requirement for God to love you, but a response to the love He already has for you. Each dawn brings a new opportunity to respond to that love, even in a fragile and imperfect way. When you open your eyes, you can again choose to say, "Lord, I trust in you." Kamina Kalmagol. And this simple phrase, said sincerely, can quietly change the inner direction of your entire day. In concluding this second part of the reflection, we can say that morning prayer is at once simple and profound. Simple, because anyone can do it, anywhere, with whatever words they have. Profound, because when lived with perseverance, it transforms the way you look at yourself, at others, at the world, and at God. By deciding to start the day with faith, you do not eliminate challenges, but you choose to face them accompanied, sustained, and inspired. Little by little, you will notice that what was once only a pious habit has become a true encounter, a dialogue that gives meaning to your days, brightens your nights, and sustains hope even when everything seems uncertain. Thus, at each dawn, your prayer can renew in your heart the certainty that life, despite its pains and limits, is a precious gift, worth living in the loving presence of God.